And at this week's episode of Born a Man, our very own Cecilia Lubanga tells us the story of one Bernard Nyaga, a 28-year-old who shares his experience as a man living in the city, the struggles he goes through, and his means of survival that include the impact of debt crisis on the well-being of men. Let's take a look at that story.
Joseph Mwiti says he needs to pay up some 472,000 shillings he owes a bank.
The average Kenyan man has 4.3 loans per person.
Now
to the plight of 3 young men whose hopes of helping to boost the country's hospital bed capacity to cope with the pandemic were raised dramatically and then dashed, leaving them with a huge debt.
Police believe the man took his own life moments after he posted a question on his Facebook page on the quickest way to commit suicide after he lost the bet.
If you do not use debt to create cash flow, it becomes a liability. And if it becomes a liability, you dig a deeper hole for yourself every single time you take on debt.
Depression and suicide among men has been reported in the recent past to be taking an upward trajectory, with the majority of men tossing themselves in debt crisis due to the high cost of living. Now, with the existence of numerous platforms that service debt at everyone's disposal, a majority of men are now chained to debt crisis, having been tasked with the responsibility of upholding a certain image by the society. This is Born a Man.
I'm one of the world's biggest introverts. However, I think because of society, at some points I have to be extroverted. So I'd say I'm at the middle point. I'm an ambivert. So when time calls it, I have to be extroverted, especially in line to my job. But when I'm in my individual space or with family and friends, I'd be considered one of the world's biggest introverts.
An encounter with Bernard.
Hey.
At his workstation, the FX Pesa giant in the outskirts of Westlands, Nairobi. At a glance, it is business as usual, but the issue of men in debt crisis in the country is not an issue that society can turn a blind eye to. Bernard, at 28 years old, says it has not been an easy journey since he set foot in Nairobi.
Number one, you're quite excited to know what's happening within the city. You're meeting different kind of friends within the city. You're having exposure to things that I had never seen in my life. All you have is brains. You have no capital, you have nothing, and you needed to make a living for yourself. Again, I was living by myself, so it was important that I'm able to fend for myself. So I started supplying chicken within the estate where I used to live. So I used to supply in different butcheries, and at night I would get someone to grill and sell the meat on the street.
The compassion and gusto of searching for the greener pastures molded his character when growing up.
The ability to carry your dream and to carry your vision all through, that is what gave me sense of purpose, regardless of what was thrown my way.
With no capital to start him off and no job to keep him going in the city, fending for himself proved almost impossible at the beginning.
From what I had done in campus, technically we didn't have a lot of jobs within that space. In campus I did actuarial science, and looking at the data, we have an uptake of 3% within the insurance field in Kenya, and compare that globally at 60% average, especially in the Western countries, in the Western world, you can see that there's a very big gap where we are.
A majority of the youth follow the same pattern on financial literacy as their parents, with no or little chance of breaking the cycle.
We learned that, or we've learned money management skills from the people who we've preceded. And if there is poor management, poor fund management skills, poor money management skills passed down, that is what we will move on with. We are taught that the most precious thing to invest in is land. However, land is a very illiquid asset. Before you're able to liquidate this asset, it takes time. So if you invest in land right now, you'd see a good example is someone taking debt to purchase land. And again, someone taking debt on top of that debt to build a house that they stay in. So in tandem, they're servicing two debts that creates zero cash flow for them.
Financial management and literacy is a skill that a majority of individuals start from their parents before they borrow from any other platform or individual in society. Men are known to oftentimes withhold their emotions when making financial decisions. This makes them logical. However, from a different angle, this behavior has often landed men in financial crisis.
You see, if you do not use debt in a productive way to create cash flows, at the end of the day, this debt will come to bite you because you need to pay what you owe. And if you do not pay what you owe and you continue to take debt to service your debt, you'll get to a point where you'll break. So this is where we see a lot of men breaking.
According to Bernard, there's an unspoken challenge for many young professionals: black tax. It is inescapable for many young adults in Africa to carry the financial burden of supporting their extended families.
At times, I've had black tax as an issue for me. However, I'm able to train people and also train myself on how to deal with black tax. So that's something that as men, we do not really see as an issue. However, financially, it takes a toll on a man.
Soaring inflation has continued to pile woe upon crisis upon uncertainty in the efforts to survive in the current economy. Shortage of money has led to a massive increase in denial, stress, anger, depression and anxiety among men, with the majority under pressure to provide.
If you're not able to provide, that's a challenge. It takes a toll on a man. Finances or money being an enabler also enables, the primary needs. For example, food, security being an issue. So it takes away what society considers as a manly task or a manly enabler. The shilling that you borrow today is different from that shilling tomorrow that you need to pay back. However, people are not cognizant of that. We are tasked to have a certain image within the society, and it forces us to do things that technically are out of our reach. We should also check up on men and ensure that this particular gender is well sensitized, is well taken care of, is well with reasonable bounds, taught how to deal with mental health, and more also empowered with financial literacy.
Following the current state of economy, Bernard highlights the need to reevaluate generational beliefs on money management, and he is grateful that his parents played a major role in the man he has turned out to be today. With the future still bleak and fragile, Bernard lives each day hoping that from where he stands financially, his knowledge will go an extra mile to save him from falling into debt crisis. It is a clarion call to the society at large to pay keen attention to the needs and wants of a man, keeping in mind what is realistic and achievable. Cecilia Lubanga, Look Up TV, Nairobi.